Hello, I'm Mitchell Swan. I'm taking this time today to make this video for the same reason you're probably watching it. Our country faces a lot of challenges these days, and yet many of us just don't see any solutions on the horizon. We see the problems clearly enough. Some of them have been with us for 40 years. But where's the big plan to fix them? We go by every 6 months worried, raise the debt ceiling, go 6 more months, raise the debt ceiling. Well, I think someone has to come forward with some good ideas. I've been hoping and praying someone would, but so far no one has. So today I'm going to put forth my ideas that I think can make our country stronger. Now before I go on, it's very important that you understand this, and I must disclose it. I am a colonel in the United States Marine Corps Reserves. I'm not active duty, and I'm not on active duty orders. I'm also considering running for Congress for the 10th District of Georgia. Now, because I'm doing that, I can also share my ideas with you openly. I do not speak for the United States Marine Corps today. I certainly don't speak for the Department of Defense, nor any other government agency. I have no chip on my shoulder. I have no axe to grind. I love my service dearly. I love this country dearly. And I can no longer remain silent. So with that said, I'd like to also share with you the 3 things that I think would make our country great: moral fidelity, fiscal responsibility, and military strength. Now, I'll tell you right now, we have one of those 3. Our military is one of the finest militaries in the world. We are the strongest. There is no peer competitor out there. And so for that, we're secure. But can we always maintain that? Do we want to have a strong military if we don't have moral fidelity? And if we don't have fiscal responsibility, how long can we maintain the assets we have and continue to train the people that we have? I want to share 2 stories with you that I think serve as excellent examples of where we are as a nation right now. The first story involves the USS Port Royal. The USS Port Royal is a missile shooter out of Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Now, in February 2009, this ship had just completed a multi-million-dollar refit. It was beautiful. It had the new car smell. So they wanted to take it out for sea trials. So the crew and the captain departed Pearl Harbor, and they made the decision that they're going to do littoral operations. Now that's just a fancy way of saying we're going to operate in shallow water and practice not hitting stuff, because that's dangerous. But even though they took adequate precautions, they put small boats in the water ahead of the ship to look for reefs in shallow water. They put men in the starboard and port rails. They put a lookout on the bow. They had a competent bridge team. They had an officer of the deck, a man on the helm, someone on the sonar, someone on the navigation charts. They had GPS. And they also had the island of Oahu getting ever bigger in their windscreen. Now, we know those waters really well. We've been sailing out of Pearl Harbor for 150 years. Whaling ships from Nantucket used to pull in there to get provisions. And yet, even after all those precautions, the USS Port Royal grounded itself on a reef, bow facing the Honolulu International Airport. In this image, you can actually see the bush right here in the shoreline. Certainly not the best day for the Navy. Now, we did an investigation. And in the investigation, it was decided there was at least 8 people that could have said something to avert that accident. But nobody spoke up. Perhaps the crew had overconfidence in the bridge team, that certainly people can see the gathering dangers and threats. We're all looking out for them. And so they didn't speak up. I'm quite certain when that ship hit that reef, somebody probably thought to themselves, I wish I would have said something. I should have spoken up earlier. I know that's how I feel right now as I'm looking at this country. Now, this ship hit that reef so hard. Consider this. When they measured the impact of that ship, it either hit in 14 feet of water or 22 feet of water. That ship has a 33-foot draft. It did not just sneak up on them. 1 kilometer off the shore. Now, it hit it so hard they had to take the chain off, the anchor off, pump the water off, pump the fuel off, take the crew off, take a prop off, and then pull it off the reef. When all was settled and done, they decided that, of course, the captain was fired. In addition, that someone could have spoken up and no one did, that they were going to implement procedures so that this wouldn't happen again. Because that's what we do now. We implement procedures so something bad never happens again. And since that time, I've heard those comments many times. How did we get guns into Mexico in drug lord hands? Oh, we're going to implement procedures so it doesn't happen again. How did the IRS target conservative groups? We don't know, but we're going to implement procedures so it doesn't happen again. How does a consulate in Benghazi get bombed, an ambassador killed? We don't respond? Well, we don't know what happened, but we're going to implement procedures so it doesn't happen again. I'll give you a banking example. MF Global, John Corzine's the CEO. MF Global took $1.4 billion of customers' segregated monies, moved them into the corporate ledger and invested them in European bonds. The trade went bad. The customers' money, their hard work, their life savings was completely lost. An investigation was put into place. Nobody knows how it happened, but we're going to implement procedures so it doesn't happen again. Of course, MF Global went bankrupt, but those procedures are there to make sure another bank doesn't do that. And you know that implementing procedures, that's just a fancy word for checklist. Checklists do not make up for responsibility, initiative, judgment, and good training. That's what's required in order for someone to make good decisions ahead of time. No checklist will ever overcome stupid. Now, let me tell you about another ship, another day in the Navy, because certainly that one does not exemplify the fine Navy service. But I'll share one with you that is very special to me. It's a tragic day, but it's also a heroic day. And I think it really shows the courage and the commitment of the U.S. Navy. Let's talk about the USS Cole. It's October 2000. It's a sunny Sunday morning. The ship is anchored in the port of Yemen. It had been taken on fuel earlier. Now keep in mind, this is pre-9/11. But a small boat comes up alongside, and on the port side of the ship blows a 40 by 40 hole. Well, that blast was so strong it killed 17 crew members instantly, wounded about 30 more. The ship is shuddering. That blast was so strong it removed decking in the ship. The ship is listing, there's power off, there's smoke, there's fire, there's certainly confusion, and water is rushing in. By every measure, by every naval engineering measure, that ship should have sunk. If it had, no one would have blamed the crew. It should have ended up at the bottom of the Yemen harbor. But that crew that remained, they fought for that ship. For the next 3 days, they rolled up their sleeves, officer enlisted, black, white, Democrat, Republican. They were a team. They had pride of ownership of that ship, and they were not going to let it sink on their watch. I'm very proud of that crew. I mourn the loss. But as we look at our nation right now, I feel like we're in financial littoral waters. We see the gathering risks. We know the risks. What's the plan? We shouldn't be in these littoral waters. We need to be out in deeper blue water. Like many people, we see the problems, and we're afraid to speak up. We're afraid that we'll be judged. I'm sure many people on the Port Royal that day thought, well, I should say something, but the bridge team must know something I don't know because they don't seem concerned. I can't be that person. So today, I'm going to speak up. We might still hit the reef, but at least I'll say I tried. I tried to throw out some plans. I tried to get a conversation going. Because this world needs a strong America. Again, we've got to get back to moral fortitude, fiscal responsibility, and military strength. I'll also share with you, quite candidly, I do not have a teleprompter. I don't have a script. I'm trying to have a conversation with you today, so if I make a mistake, I say the wrong word, I misspell a word on the whiteboard, please understand, I just want to talk to you and get my message out. Before we get to the plan to fix this country, it's important that we do an assessment and see where do we sit in the world. What kind of environment are we operating in these days? And so what I'm going to do is kind of walk you around the world. I'm going to use a little bit of my military experience because it might give you a perspective of issues you hear about in the news, but we all watch the same television stations, we read the same websites, we get the same talking points. I want to give you a few aha moments. I want you to look at a few of these items around the world and say, wow, I never looked at it that way. Now, I'm going to start in the Middle East, not because all the problems of the world are there. It gets a lot of camera time and it's significant. But there are problems in Africa, North Africa, Europe, Russia, China. We'll talk about all of those. When we finish with the global assessment, we're going to then focus on our country. We'll do an assessment of what the U.S. is. Who are we as a nation? What are the problems we're all facing right now? What's my top 10 punch list of things I really wish we could fix? And then we'll roll through a plan, something that I think will actually help our country be much, much stronger